This session is about the role of agency work in fostering labor market transitions. Do we work as a trap or as a trampoline, or maybe as both? That's the question we try to answer. And with Mrs. Anna Biondi, the Deputy Director of the ILO Bureau for Workers' Activities, we have the voice of the unions. And with Mr. Roy Chaco, who works also in the ILO, but for the Bureau of Employers' Activities, we have the voice of employers. And with me, and I'll give the introduction with a couple of slides, also quoting from a research which was also mentioned yesterday by Ronnie Goldberg. I'll do the introduction and give the side, we're talking about triangular relationship, I'll give the side of our industry. For Ciett, there is no doubt that regulated agency work, and we talked about regulation a lot already, works as a trampoline. But what is the interesting question is, why does it work better in some labor markets than in others? Pianos and phones, okay. Why does it work better, the trampoline function, for instance, in the Netherlands than it does in Japan? Very interesting question to have a more in-depth look at. And when we talk about stepping stone, the debate often is a narrow debate. We only look at a stepping stone from agency work to an open-ended contract. That, to me, is not the definition of a stepping stone. That's too narrow. Because these days, we have a diversity of contracts on the labor market. So there's also a diversity in what is a stepping stone. And not only that, you also have to look, and that's on this slide, at the different profiles of workers. You have students. Students' ambition is to finish their studies. That's at least what we hope, looking at all the skills gaps. In countries like the Netherlands and Belgium, about 30% of all agency workers are students. They're not looking for a permanent job or an open-ended job. They're looking for money and experience. Then you have first-time entrants that are looking for experience. You have people that are re-entering the labor market after an interruption, after maternity leave, for instance. And you have those that want to remain attached to the labor market after being pensioned off. And you have, finally, those that are not looking for a permanent job, but looking for work on the side. They often have their independent company and they combine agency work during the year with other business. Of course, there are workers, and on average, that's about 50%. And that is a number I know from Dutch research. On average, 50% are really looking for that more permanent job. So, conclusion, you have different profiles of workers, and that is something we should take into account as first thing when debating trap or trampoline. Then there's some illustration, there's some research, and it's in the Ciett Economic Report, which can be found outside. Done research in Belgium. Indeed, reason one, stepping stone permanent work. But in France, reason one is agency work allows me to find work quickly. In Norway, agency work is a good gateway to a working life. In the US, it's a way to a permanent job. Numbers 2 and 3, again, very different. So we have to look at motivations, we have to look at profiles. Let me now talk a bit about research which was also quoted yesterday by Ronnie Goldberg. It was the research done by Eurociett, the European arm of Ciett, and a trade union which is our social partner on the European level, Unie Europa. We have actually in Europe a very constructive social dialogue. So Mr. Hartz, we do follow your advice as an industry. In the social dialogue, we recently conducted a joint research on transitions in the labor market. And the conclusion is agency work absolutely facilitates different types of transitions. In particular, from unemployment to work, from education to work, and it helps people being kept in employment, moving from one job to another. And mind you, that's better than unemployment, because if that's the alternative, what's better? I know the answer, and I hope you do too. Part of the research is that agency work is also particularly effective, and that's the bottom part of this slide, finding vulnerable groups, people with a disability, with foreign backgrounds, a long-term unemployed, a job. In the Netherlands, 38% of the agency workers belong to such target groups. Germany, 70% are foreign workers. 12%. In Belgium, 12% people with a disadvantage get work via agency work. Then you get the accusation, hey, but okay, you place these people, but they never move on. They're stuck in agency work. That is not true. But that is because we often look at the photo and not at the movie. Yes, on an annual basis, we place 40 million agency workers a year. But they transition, often after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And if we look at the penetration rate, the working population working as an agency worker, we're actually, and that was illustrated yesterday too, we're actually not that large. Only 1.6% of the working population is an agency worker. Nor has there been an explosive growth. Yes, there has been a healthy development. It was 1.2% a decade back. So I would really ask, when we talk about trap or trampoline, to look at the movie, at rolling data, not at static data. And we should actually have more of those researches. A few countries do research. You can have a look at France, UK, the Netherlands, Belgium. They each year perform a research on the stepping stone. The one I want to mention here is France, where it's very clear that only 11% of agency workers coming to the agencies were in employment before getting an agency job. After a year, when they left, or were still working, 66% was in work. That is a great contribution because they earn wages, they pay taxes, they pay Social Security, and they have fulfillment in a job. So clearly there is a stepping stone function. However, and that's back to the why. Why does it function better in some labor markets than in others? And I think there are 5, and I want to put that to Anna and Roy. There are 5 reasons where you can say we can improve, we can maximize the transition role of agency work. The first obstacle is perception, misclassifying agency work as precarious, which is not true. Employment conditions, workers' rights, workers' obligations are on par with direct hire. Equal pay, equal treatment is the norm and not the exception in most of the world. Human rights are respected. The second issue is more efficient regulation. We talked about that yesterday too. If agency work is too restrictive, if you cannot transition to other contracts, if we cannot offer other contracts, the trampoline will not function. It is essential to have appropriate regulation based on ILO Convention 181. The third one is, and that's also been a topic that has been addressed, encourage cooperation between private and public employment services. In countries in Europe, 50%, 40 to 50% of all vacancies posted on the job boards of the public employment agencies are our jobs, our industry jobs. That's an enormous amount. We are actually the largest clients in our employer role as agency of public employment services. So cooperating is essential, and it is finding its way. The fourth is meaningful social dialogue. Goes without reasoning and is fully clear. And the fifth is more research. Better research, accurate data, looking at rolling data and not at static data, looking at motivations, looking at profiles. And with that, I think last slide is the questions we have put to Roy and Anna. How can the ILO help us improve perceptions, improve our image, but also looking at regulations? What standards can the ILO use to promote decent agency work and other forms of decent work? And what kind, finally, research is needed to fully capture the stepping stone function, the trampoline function of agency work? And of course, any other topic you might want to add. Thank you.